Hi guys, thanks for downloading my podcast and very welcome. I hope you find this space helpful in your preparation for your exams or listening in your car or on your way to work or wherever you are and wherever you are going to. Let me tell you a bit more about myself. I'm Mark and I was born in Cape Town and raised in Oudtshoorn, South Africa, and a few years ago we decided to move to London. SA is such a great country with white sandy beaches and a rich cultural mix. I just came from a 3-week-long holiday in SA and man, it was brilliant. I went to my boot's wedding in Bonneville just last week. I love South Africa and I can't wait to eventually move back there. But for now I'm doing my research in London and we produce the bulk of this podcast from a home in South London. You know, I never really paid attention in history class. I'm sure my teachers tried their best with us, but I just didn't like the content that they were teaching. So for that reason I can't remember much of what was taught in our history class, and I bet there are more people out there like me. History was a series of dates that you had to remember, but very seldomly you were told the story behind the story and what kind of a person somebody like Wimpole or Shaka was and what motivated them. When you read a storybook, the author usually goes through great lengths to describe the character's state of mind and what made him or her tick. In this podcast, we will explore all the stories behind the stories. We will get to know some of the personalities and hopefully gain a greater understanding of them. Right, so these days I love anything to do with history, but that's not the only reason why I'm doing this podcast. I searched high and low for any information on iTunes about South Africa, but all I could find was music albums, audiobooks and a few ringtones. So I decided that I should do something about that. There are so many things to consider and I want this podcast to be the best it could be. I'm really excited though because we live in an age where information is readily available and podcasting is such a great way of getting access to that information. So gone are the days that you have to spend time reading through a book. Now you can listen to a show on history, business, arts or just about every subject that you can think of at your own leisure whilst driving or sitting in the bus. This brings me to my next point, the media. We know largely what we know because of what the media tells us and how the media portray things, but we all know that the media tend to only report on the bad things. This podcast is a way for me to bring some of the good stories to you. Well, I've thought long and hard about this podcast and how to present it, and I've come up with the following. There will be no timeline, except for episode 2, which will be an overview of the history of South Africa. The entire length of the podcast will be no longer than 25 minutes or so. I will introduce features as we go along, like the good, the bad and the ugly, but you'll have to wait for podcast 3, episode 3, to hear what I've got in store for you. If you are not familiar with our great country, let me tell you a little bit about South Africa. South Africa has 11 official languages, 9 provinces, 52 million people and an area roughly the size of 6 United Kingdoms or just a tad bigger than Texas. We aren't only going to be discussing the history of South Africa in this podcast, we are also going to discover the country through its history. I'm pretty excited about this journey. Are you? I hope it's not only my family and friends that listen to this podcast, so let me know what you think, please. I will be setting up a website and posting additional materials like photos and videos, and hopefully a forum where you can take part in the conversation. I'm sure my pronunciation of some words are not going to be great, but I'll give it a good try, and hopefully I'll get better as the weeks and months go by. Join me next time as we outline and arrange the dates of the most important parts of the South African history. But for now, may the wars be with you and the biltong keep you safe.